I'm looking into the other studio. It looks like a breakfast feast over there. Christopher, are you responsible for that? That feast this
I
morning?
am responsible for bringing it here from Shaker Heights.
Okay. And who baked it?
My wife, Patrice.
Oh,
Patrice
Patrice,
Hayward.
it was wonderful. Yeah, I don't know if we just shut the microphones down and have a feast here this
Have a
morning.
breakfast.
And so I want to welcome Christopher Johnson and Alison Garrigan. Alison,
Hello.
welcome also.
Thank you.
But you're here on a very special mission this morning, and that is to talk about this wonderful play that, Christopher, you pretty well wrote it. I noticed it says adapted by.
Yes.
But that means you wrote it, doesn't it?
Well, I did. I added. There's a whole thread throughout the play of two young children who are twins, and they are without a story at the beginning of the play, and they go on this mission to find a story, and they find Finn McCool, and that becomes their story. And
Among other things.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, but I added that. So I adapted the story of Finn McCool, but I added it to this larger piece.
And of course, the Irish mythical hero. Want to talk a bit about him?
Sure. Well, there was Finn McCool, who was a great Celtic warrior, and from that emerged these stories of Finn McCool the Giant.
And every one of them
that's-
is true, you know that.
That's
Absolutely.
right, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
This is a documentary. So, so I took three of the main stories of Finn McCool. One is when he seeks wisdom. He finds the magic salmon that a wise man tells him, and he becomes wise by sucking his thumb. Yes, and because he cuts his thumb on the fish hook when he's trying to catch the salmon, and that's how he gets wisdom from the blood from the salmon.
We don't want to tell them the whole story.
So no, believe me, there's
There's
plenty
so much
more.
more.
Yeah.
There's so much more.
I do. There's a brief reference to the Giant's Causeway, the bridge he was trying to build to Scotland. But the main story is really his confrontation with Cuchulainn, the Scottish giant who comes to fight him. He's been fighting all the giants he can find, and Finn is the one that he hasn't gotten to. And then his Finn's wife Una helps him outwit the Scottish giant.
All right, that's briefly the story. But I want to talk to you about the origin of your theater, Talespinners.
Talespinners came into being about 5 years ago. We've been producing for 4 years ago. I grew up being a professional in children's theater. My mother was a professional in children's theater.
I remember you in Kevin McGinty's plays at the East Side
Right,
Irish
yes.
Club and the West Side Club,
Dancing
right?
at Lunasa.
Alison, yes,
and,
Alison Garrigan.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. But those you weren't Garrigan then.
No, I was Hernan at that point.
That's
so
right,
now I'm
right.
Garrigan. But I realized that there was a dearth of cross-cultural children's theater that would really get the kids involved and help with their arts education and introduce them to new parts of the world here in Cleveland, and I decided to start a children's theater, a professional children's theater.
How many years ago was that?
We started 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, and we are in the back half of our fourth producing season. So for the first year, we were sort of a movable feast. We were doing appearances and promotional things and whatnot, and then we began producing in earnest 4 years ago.
And you're located now where?
We are in the Rheinberger Auditorium in the Detroit Shoreway. We're part of the Gordon Square Arts District at 5209 Detroit Avenue in Cleveland.
That's becoming a very fashionable area, isn't it?
It's a wonderful area.
Gordon
It's
Square.
growing. It's so alive. It's amazing. And there's so many different things. It was a perfect place for us, not only because the theater itself is this amazing little jewel box that was actually built for kids, but it also is because there's so many different family things that families can do when they come into the neighborhood that they can make a whole day out of it. Get ice cream, go down to the lake, do all kinds of stuff like that. So.
How did you come up with the name Talespinners?
My mother and father, who were both equity actors when I grew up in Seattle, had developed a program under the Title III educational grant called the Talespinners. And it was very groundbreaking, it was very different. They believed that everyone should have access to the arts, disregarding all social and economic things. And they went out into the schools with this, and they were my mentors in that respect. So many, many years later, I started this theater and honored them with the name.
This theater group is different than most. You don't always charge to go in. The honor
right.
system is a big part of it too, isn't
We
it?
have, for every production, we have 4 pay-what-you-can performances, and that's literally pay what you can. If you have 4 kids and a quarter in your pocket, all 5 of you walk in the door. And no questions are asked. You just walk up, you hand it to the person at the box office, and so we can get a head count, make sure we don't oversell
That's
the
just
theater.
at certain productions.
That's 4 performances out of every single production. And then when we do our student matinees, it's also on a sliding scale depending on what the family groups are involved or the schools can afford.
And you think this is worth it to expose the kids to this type
Oh,
of culture?
I think it is absolutely invaluable. First of all, it gives them a different way of looking at the world in general. It exposes them to things that they might not have access to otherwise, lets them think differently about who they are, how different they are from people, how alike they are to other people, and just lets them see how things parallel. We quite frequently, we're not doing it so much with this production, but we quite frequently will take, for instance, we did a Bantu tale, which is an African tale, and we also incorporated elements of Maori and Japanese No, because they parallel each other so beautifully in mythology and in style.
Cool.
I know, who knew, right?
Yeah, right.
And then we also did, we've done a couple of other things where we've had that happening. We did a Polish folk tale that started in Poland and ended in Japan because they have 2 identical festivals that are totally unrelated to each other and yet almost exactly the same. So this helps kids see that yes, we may be different because of distance and time and culture, but we're also so much the same. And so it helps kids look at the world in a very different way, in a much more open way. It also lets them look at themselves a little differently too. We also do something with these productions, particularly with the cultural aspects, where we let the kids become involved and we also let them see how we do things.
Cool.
So that's important.
What is the age range of the kids coming to this?
Well, we get everything from babes in arms to full-grown adults, but our target age is
Target, yeah.
probably 3 to 14, about-ish, and depending on the production, that shifts. You know, some of the productions
What
are...
about this Finn McCool one? What age group?
I would say this is probably 4 to 14, I would say.
Sure, yeah.
But there's certainly something for kids who are younger than that. I mean, we try to multi-layer everything so that no matter what age you are, there's something that you will find really fascinating. So.
I remember my mother telling me, eat your dinner and you might grow up to be as strong as Finn McCool.
Yeah, I grew up with stories
When I
of
was
Finn
4
McCool
years
also.
old, 3 years old.
Uh-huh.
We're going to come back and can you stick around a while?
Absolutely.
We're going to talk to you some more about
Great.
about Finn McCool and about the actors and the play in general, how people can get tickets, all that good stuff.
Thank
Coming
you.
up in the studio with me this morning are the 2 of the finest theater people I have ever met, Christopher Johnson and Alison Garrigan. Christopher, I want to go to you because I talked with Alison at length. Tell me about how you pick the actors for this. I'd say is that your department?
It's not really my department, but Allie had auditions, and she can talk about this more, but she auditioned a year ago?
Yeah,
not quite a year.
December, early December.
And picked these guys, and some of them she had worked with before, some of them she knew. But they're all, I could say, I knew a couple of them, but they're all just incredible, and they work extremely well together, and they're having fun.
And they can go from one play to the other?
We cast for the entire season in December, and so we have a company of actors, and they work throughout the year on various shows. So yes, Chris was at the auditions. He was able to see what some of the people were, who were auditioning, and we have professional auditions, and they come in and they do their thing, and then we cast them for the year.
Now, do you do the same thing with all the plays you did with this one?
Yes.
You work it the same way?
Yes, yes.
He does the adapting.
Well, it depends on the piece.
Yeah,
We have different.
This is really the first piece I've done. I'm not really directly involved with the theater. Allie runs the theater, she founded it, and she has people who work with her. But I came in as a playwright because I've known Allie for many years.
Now, will you do more with them?
Yes.
Will you keep on? I'm putting you on the spot, Allie. Eh?
No, that would, you notice I had to think about that for about a nanosecond. before I
No,
said
yeah,
yes.
all right, very nice, very nice. So I guess your position is secure. You've got it
good
right
to
here
know.
on the radio.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for being my manager.
I'd like to thank my parents.
No charge at all. So again, how do you pick the actors?
So we have what we call open auditions, and all actors, whether they are new actors or already working professional actors, come and they do an audition. We put them in groups and they do auditions for us, and then we don't do callbacks. But then I meet with each of the playwrights, and we talk about what do you think about blah 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 blah, and then we plug them all into where they believe they belong in the season. And we quite frequently have, for instance, this year we've got Christopher Walker, who's been in 2 of the shows. Devin Turchan, who plays Sean, one of the twins, has been in 2 shows. We've got people who are in multiple shows during the year, but we also have some people who just do 1 show a year with us too. So.
Okay. Oh, by the way, before I forget it, the Irish American Charitable Foundation is helping you fund.
They are indeed. They are our presenting, if I can speak, our presenting sponsors for the show.
For the show
yeah.
this year, and it opens when the 19th.
The 19th of September. Yes.
It runs through
October 11th.
But I won't be there the 10th, because I'm going to the Mayo Bar.
And you should be.
And Connie and JC also. We'll all be AWOL that night from
Excellent.
From Talespinners. Now, why should we support it?
Because it plays a vital part in creating rounded, fully developed human beings, really. But also because, as I said before, it also introduces parts of other cultures into what we do that might not otherwise be accessible. I grew up with lots and lots of Celtic lore and lots of Irish lore and Welsh lore and Scottish lore, but there are a lot of people, particularly in Cleveland, who aren't really exposed to that in a lot of other ways, and I think that that's a really important thing. And plus the life lessons that you can learn from the wisdom that's in these tales that we tell is really huge. It's really great. And we always incorporate the lessons of what we're doing for the kids, but not in a way that, hits them over the head with it. They can learn it and,
Now,
go from there.
is it kind of an interactive play?
It is.
Very much.
Very
Talk
much
about
so.
There are a number of things that Allie and the actors are working on, and Caitlin Cornelius, who's doing our movement and dance, to draw the children into the piece in terms of handing things to them, even in imaginary ways, or just getting them to respond, to sing along to the songs, which Talespinner does quite frequently.
The audience makes sound effects at certain points and, and stuff like that. So.
Can I say something, Jerry?
Yeah.
As an outsider, I've known Allie for many years, even though we're only 23.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't have children. I have a number of nieces and nephews, and they were an inspiration for me on this piece. But I've gone to every play that they've done, and it's just an incredible quality production. And I've said this, Allie's heard me say this, it's the true magic of theater. It isn't about $50 million Spider-Man flying around. It's about grace on stage and performance and just puppets and dance and music, and it's just very beautiful experience for people to have with their children or without.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say too, Jerry, like how great to have real theater and not a video game and not a TV screen and not a whatever, because for our children it is so important, art and feeling and seeing
Absolutely it
and
is.
experiencing art. And so, and art is not just a painting; it's theater
Right.
and all that. So, just thank you for doing that,
Well,
and
thank
really,
you.
and all kids should have the opportunity to see live theater.
Well,
be
and
a part of it.
Talespinner also believes that children should be allowed to be children
Yes,
also.
good.
So we
Uh-huh.
give them a chance to take some ownership of the show that they're seeing. We have one parent who brings his child to see every single one of the shows. And I saw him, I happened to be in the lobby the day he came in, and he said, "We're so glad to be seeing this show today." And I said, "That's great." He goes, "And one of the reasons is because now maybe he'll stop singing the song from the last show." Because that's what happens. The
Cool.
kids are asked to take part of it. And also, the other thing that we do is that at the end of the show, the actors come out into the lobby in costume, with puppets, with instruments, and the kids are allowed to try on whatever costume parts they can, play with the puppets, touch the instruments, ask how things are done. You know, so again, I think that it continues the answer to your question, Jerry. I think that it really gives the kids one of the most hands-on sense of ownership experiences they will have with arts. And one of the things that makes my heart go pitter-pat is that with a lot of these kids, this is the very first exposure they've ever had
Yes.
to live theater. So,
We took our nieces and nephews numerous times, and 2 weeks later, they're still talking about it. So it stays with them. They remember, and they sing, and they have a great time, but they enjoy just experiencing the art.
So it is a nice thing for families to go to.
absolutely.
I want to just bring up then to parking. How's the parking?
Parking
you know
is
what I
really
mean?
easy.
And how easy, it's so easy to
Parking
get
is
to, I know.
really
Tell me,
easy.
there's a,
The parking is, we have parking spaces on all along the west side of the building, and then directly across the street in a fenced parking lot. It's all free parking, it's accessible, there's also plenty of street parking. It's really easy to get to us, even with construction.
okay, right.
The two
Yeah.
seasons in Cleveland, winter and construction.
Right.
But we're right off the Shoreway. We are very close to, we're like 10 minutes from downtown.
Perfect, perfect.
So,
Yeah, 5208 Detroit, that's the.
09.
09, sorry, 5209 Detroit, thank you. At the
5208 is the big end.
Oh, you don't go there?
for
Okay, you got it.
theater, no.
Reinberger Auditorium. So right there, and just a great, it's gonna be a great play. And to learn about the tale of Irish mythology with Finn McCool. But,
Absolutely.
yeah.
All right. Yes, I was staying remarkably quiet there for a while. Did you notice that?
That's very rare,
I
Charlie.
wasn't interrupting anybody. It's 11:38 here on the Irish Show on WHK AM 1420. I think you pretty much covered everything: the ticket policy, phone number, email. If somebody else, the email, the website.
Oh,
Do you have a
website?
Yes.
Website is www.talespinnerchildrenstheater.org. And the theater is spelled with an R-E, not an E-R. And the phone number is 216-264-9680.
And again, it's being sponsored by the Irish American Charitable Organization
It is
Foundation,
indeed.
Thank you, Jerry.
which is a good organization here in Cleveland. We do things. I'm on the board of that organization. I've
We're
been for a number
very
of
proud
years.
and very grateful.
And I think we do a lot of good things like this.
You do.
So, good luck with the
Thank you.
play, and it's going to run from the 19th through the 11th of October. Is
Yes,
that correct?
Right.
correct.
So there's no excuse for anybody not being able to see it. Are you familiar with William Butler Yeats?
Oh, indeed.
Well, he wrote a wonderful piece called The Song of Wandering Angus. Remember
I
that?
do.
We're going to play it now. But you know, this is a song that was recorded by an awful lot of people. I heard her originally by a fellow named Burl Ives back in the late 50s.
Wow.
He recorded it.
That was the first one I ever heard, too.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, well, it's a great piece. But here it is done by a young lady named a popular modern trad singer named Carol.